The stars stretched endlessly across the black sea of space. For Captain Daniel Reed, they were more than points of light. They were dreams finally reached. He sat by the viewing window of the Earth diplomatic ship Horizon, watching the glow of a new world come into sight. Its surface shimmered like liquid silver. That was Aurelia Prime, home of the most advanced alien race known, the Aurelians. Daniel had trained all his life for this. Humanity was still young among the stars. The Galactic Council had seen Earth's rise with curiosity, and the Aurelian Empire, one of the founding powers, had invited humans to send their first ambassador. Daniel was that man. He wasn't chosen for his strength or rank. He was chosen for something the aliens found fascinating but mysterious: his empathy. As the ship descended, Daniel's pulse quickened. The shining towers of Aurelia Prime rose like crystal spears, touching clouds that glowed with gentle light. Every structure reflected beauty and perfection. He had never seen a world so flawless. Yet somewhere deep inside he felt small, as if this place had no room for mistakes, no place for warmth. At the landing platform, a group of tall figures waited. Their skin gleamed like polished stone, and their eyes glowed faintly with hues of blue and violet. At their center stood Queen Seralith, ruler of the Aurelian Empire. Her presence filled the air like soft gravity, calm but impossible to ignore. "Welcome, Captain Daniel Reed of Earth," she said, in a voice that sounded both human and not. It echoed like many tones at once. "We are honored by your arrival." Daniel bowed respectfully. "The honor is mine, Your Majesty." Earth sends its greetings and gratitude. Seralith's expression didn't change. Aurelians rarely smiled. Their faces were carved in quiet elegance. "My daughter will accompany you during your stay. She will help you understand our ways." From behind the queen stepped Princess Liara. Daniel almost forgot to breathe. She was radiant, not in a simple way, and her entire being shimmered with light as if she was made of starlight given form. Her eyes glowed with faint silver, and when she spoke her voice was calm, melodic, and curious. "Welcome to Aurelia, human," she said softly. "I will be your guide." Daniel nodded politely, though his mind struggled to find words. "Thank you, Your Highness. I look forward to learning." The Queen's gaze lingered on Daniel for a moment, calm, watchful, unreadable. Then she turned and left with her royal guard. The silence that followed felt heavy, almost sacred. Liara looked at him thoughtfully. "You look nervous," he gave a small laugh. "A little. It's not every day I meet a civilization older than human history." Her head tilted slightly. "You humans always say things like that. You measure time by history, emotions by words. We measure them by harmony." Daniel wasn't sure what she meant, but he smiled anyway. "Then maybe I'll learn your harmony." She blinked slowly, her expression neutral. But Daniel thought he saw a faint light in her eyes, almost like amusement. Over the next few days, Liara guided Daniel through the shining world of Aurelia Prime. Every place was perfect. Gardens that glowed at night, buildings that changed color with the light, cities that sang with soft tones. But everywhere Daniel went, he noticed something missing. No laughter, no expression. Everything was beautiful, yet lifeless. Aurelians spoke politely, moved gracefully, and worked together flawlessly. But Daniel felt a strange emptiness around them. It was a perfection without emotion. One evening, as the two walked through the crystal gardens, Daniel stopped near a lake that reflected the stars above. "Your world is incredible," he said quietly. "But it feels cold." Liara looked at him curiously. "Cold? The temperature is stable." He chuckled softly. "I mean, it feels empty. Too perfect, maybe." She frowned slightly. "Perfection is what we strive for. It is the essence of life. For humans," Daniel said, "it's the opposite. We love the world because it's not perfect, because it can change, grow, even break." Liara studied him. "Strange. Why would you love something that can break?" He looked at her reflection in the lake, flawless and shining. "Because when something can break, it can also heal. That's where beauty comes from." Liara turned away silent. The reflection of the stars rippled across the water, and Daniel wondered if he had said something wrong. But when she spoke again, her voice was softer. "Your words, they make me feel something. I don't understand it." "That's okay," Daniel said gently. "Feelings don't always need understanding." Days became weeks. Liara grew more curious about human life. She asked about music, stories, and families. Daniel told her about Earth, its oceans, its laughter, and even its wars. She couldn't understand how humans could fight and still love one another. "That's what makes us human," he said one night as they watched the twin moons rise. "We're not made to be perfect. We make mistakes and we try again. That's how we learn to care." Liara was quiet for a long time. "If your kind values imperfection," she said finally, "then what do you see when you look at me?" Daniel hesitated. "I see beauty," he said slowly, "but beauty so strong it frightens me." Her glowing eyes met his. "Why would beauty frighten you?" He smiled sadly. "Because sometimes when something is too beautiful, you stop seeing what's real underneath." Liara tilted her head, confused, but she didn't ask more. She simply looked at him with a gaze that seemed to search for meaning beyond words. Later that night, Queen Saralith watched from the high balcony of her palace. The reflection of the two, human and princess, glowed faintly in the distance. "Strange creatures," she whispered to her advisor. "They carry emotion like fire, yet they walk among stars without fear." Her advisor bowed. "Shall I restrict their meetings, Majesty?" The queen shook her head slowly. "Not yet. I wish to understand the human heart before I judge it." She turned back toward the city, her silver eyes cold but thoughtful. Somewhere inside, curiosity stirred, something she hadn't felt for centuries. Over the following days, rumors began to spread through the royal court. The human ambassador and the princess were seen walking together in the gardens, speaking in quiet tones. Some called it fascination, others whispered it was dangerous. A human emotion infecting an Aurelian mind. Daniel didn't know any of this. He only knew that Liara was changing. She smiled now, faintly but real. Her voice carried warmth when she spoke to him. She asked questions that had no answers. One morning she stood by the garden lake again. The soft wind carried silver leaves across the water. "Daniel," she said gently, "do you think humans can love someone who is not human?" Daniel paused, unsure how to answer. "Love isn't about what someone is," he said finally. "It's about what you feel when you're with them." Her eyes glowed brighter. "Then what do you feel when you are with me?" He looked at her, the most perfect being he had ever seen, her light so strong it almost hurt to look at. "I feel like I'm standing too close to the sun," he whispered. "It's beautiful, but I'm afraid I'll burn." Liara's expression softened. "You speak in riddles, human." Daniel smiled sadly. "Maybe that's the only way we know how to tell the truth." That night, when Daniel returned to his quarters, a message awaited him. It was sealed with the royal insignia. "You are summoned to the Grand Hall of Aurelia at first light. The Queen wishes to speak with you alone." He placed the message down, his mind restless. He didn't know what the Queen wanted, but deep inside, he felt a strange mix of fear and calm, the kind that comes before a storm. Outside his window, the stars of Aurelia shone bright, reflected in the perfect crystal city below. But somewhere in that perfection, a small spark of human emotion had begun to burn, and it would soon change everything. The first light of Aurelia's twin suns poured through the great windows of the royal hall. The shining beams reflected on the marble-like floor, scattering rainbow colors across the high pillars. The entire palace glowed with perfection. Captain Daniel Reed stood silently near the entrance, wearing the dark blue uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps. His boots made no sound on the smooth floor. Around him, Aurelian guards stood tall and still, their armor reflecting the light like glass. He felt their eyes on him, not with anger, but with curiosity. They were trying to understand the strange, emotional being who had somehow touched the heart of their princess. A soft chime echoed through the hall. The massive golden doors opened slowly and Queen Saralith entered. She walked with calm grace, her steps soundless. Every part of her body seemed to glow faintly like living crystal. Daniel bowed deeply. "Your Majesty," he said, trying to sound calm, though his heart beat fast. "Rise, human," she said, her voice deep and layered, like a song sung by many voices at once. "We must talk," Daniel straightened. The hall felt enormous and silent. He could hear his own breathing. "You have spent much time with my daughter," the Queen said, her silver eyes fixed on him, not in anger but in study. "Do you deny this?" "I do not, Your Majesty," Daniel replied honestly. "Princess Liara has been a kind and wise guide. She has taught me more about Aurelia than I could ever learn alone. The Queen's head tilted slightly. "And yet," she said slowly, "rumors spread through my court. They say the human and my daughter walk together under the moonlight, that they speak of things forbidden." Daniel took a deep breath. "We speak of life, Your Majesty. Of what it means to feel." "Feel," Saralith repeated, her voice echoing slightly. "A word your species uses often. Feelings make you strong, you say, yet they have caused your wars, your pain, your mistakes. How can such chaos bring wisdom?" Daniel met her gaze. "Because from pain we learn compassion. From mistakes we learn truth. That is what makes us human." The Queen was silent for a moment. Her expression did not change, but Daniel could feel her studying him, trying to understand something far beyond words. Then she spoke again, softer this time. "Tell me, human, why do you not love my daughter?" The question hit Daniel like a wave. The guards looked up slightly. Even the air seemed to freeze. He opened his mouth, then closed it again. He hadn't expected such a question, not from a queen and not spoken with such calm curiosity. Saralith stepped closer, her eyes bright. "You spend time with her. You make her laugh. You awaken strange emotions within her, things my kind have never known, and yet you keep your distance. Why?" Daniel swallowed, searching for the right words. "Your Majesty," he said softly, "I do care for Princess Liara. She is kind, curious, and strong. But I cannot love her." The Queen's voice grew firmer. "Cannot or will not." Daniel looked down at the glowing floor. For a moment he thought about all the times Liara had smiled, rare, gentle smiles that made the cold palace seem alive. He thought about her questions, her wonder, and her sadness when she tried to understand what love meant. Finally, he lifted his eyes to meet the Queen's. "She's too beautiful," he said quietly. The hall fell completely silent. Even the soft hum of the palace lights seemed to fade. The Queen stared at him, her expression unreadable. "Too beautiful?" she repeated slowly, as if testing the meaning of the words. "You reject perfection because it is too perfect?" Daniel nodded. "Yes, Your Majesty. Her beauty is not the problem. It's the barrier. I cannot see her heart beyond the light that surrounds her. To me she feels untouchable, like a star I can see but never hold." Saralith's eyes narrowed slightly, not in anger but in confusion. "You speak nonsense. Beauty is a gift, human. It inspires awe. It commands respect. You should be honored by her presence." Daniel smiled sadly. "Maybe that's true for your kind. But humans, we love differently. We don't love perfection. We love flaws because they show who someone truly is. We love laughter that isn't perfect, smiles that are uneven, hearts that sometimes break and heal again. That's what makes love real for us." The Queen turned away for a moment. The light around her shimmered like rippling water. "Your words are strange," she said. "They sound foolish, and yet they hold weight. Perhaps that is why your species is both feared and admired." Daniel stood silently, letting her think. After a long pause, the Queen spoke again. "My daughter has begun to change. She shows emotion now, sadness, joy, even defiance. My advisors call it corruption. They say the human has infected her mind. Tell me truthfully, on what have you done to her?" "I showed her what it means to feel," Daniel said simply. "That's all. She learned from me the way I learned from her." The Queen turned sharply, her silver eyes glowing brighter. "And do you realize what that means? An Aurelian who feels emotion is no longer in harmony. Our kind depend on balance and logic. You have given her chaos." Daniel's heart tightened. Then maybe chaos is what she needed. Maybe harmony without heart is not living. It's existing. The Queen's glow flickered just for a moment like a candle hit by wind. "You dare lecture me about life, human?" she said, her tone colder now. Daniel bowed his head respectfully. "No, Your Majesty. I only speak what I know. I've seen empires rise and fall on Earth. I've seen love rebuild what hate destroyed. If emotion is chaos, then it's a chaos that gives meaning." The Queen said nothing. She turned away, walking toward the wide window that looked out over the shining city. The twin suns were rising higher now, bathing the world in gold. "When Liara told me about you," Saralith said quietly, "she spoke of a fire she felt inside. It frightened her, but she could not stop it. I thought it was weakness. Perhaps it is something else." Daniel stepped closer. "It's life, Your Majesty. The fire she feels, that's what humans call love. It doesn't always mean romance. It means caring so deeply that you begin to change because of it. Sarelith was silent again. Then very slowly she turned her gaze toward him. For the first time her voice held a faint tremor. "And you truly do not love her?" Daniel smiled faintly. "I do care for her. More than I can explain. But love is something that has to grow between equals. She is more than I am. Too beautiful, too pure. I could never make her understand the human way of love without breaking something inside her." For a long moment the Queen simply stared at him. Then to Daniel's surprise she stepped closer. Her tall, graceful form towered over him, but her voice softened. "Perhaps," she said, "that is why she is drawn to you. You do not desire her for her perfection as so many others would. You fear it. You resist it. That makes you different." Daniel bowed again. "I only want to be honest, Your Majesty." She turned back to the window, her voice thoughtful. "You humans are a mystery. You come from a small, fragile world, yet you speak of things even we cannot understand. Beauty, imperfection, emotion, such chaos and yet such strength." Daniel didn't answer. He just stood quietly, watching the golden light fill the room. Finally, the Queen spoke one last time. "You may continue your duties, Ambassador. But remember this, my daughter's heart is not a toy. If she breaks because of you, no power in the stars will save you." Daniel nodded. "I understand, Your Majesty." She turned away, her form glowing like a living statue of light. "Go. I must speak with my daughter." As Daniel left the hall, his mind was heavy with thoughts. He had spoken the truth, but he couldn't shake the image of Liara's face, her curious eyes, her gentle voice, her questions about love. He walked through the shining corridors, each step echoing softly. Outside, the suns climbed higher and the city gleamed with perfect light. But to Daniel, that light felt colder now. He realized something. He hadn't just taught Liara what it meant to feel. She had taught him what it meant to care without hope, to admire something so beautiful it hurt. And though he told the Queen he could not love her daughter, deep in his heart, a quiet truth whispered otherwise. The palace of Aurelia Prime was quieter than usual. The silver halls that once echoed with distant songs now carried only silence. Ever since the Queen's private meeting with Captain Daniel Reed, the air around the royal court had changed. Whispers moved like soft winds, about the human ambassador, about the princess, and about emotions that no Aurelian had ever felt before. The Aurelians didn't understand love. They didn't understand why a human's words could shake a queen or make a princess question her purpose. To them, emotions were unbalanced energy, something that disturbed their harmony. But for Princess Liara, that disturbance had become impossible to ignore. That morning, Liara stood in the crystal gardens staring at her reflection in the still water. Her glowing skin shimmered with faint silver light, perfect in every detail. She had always been told that beauty was her greatest gift, the sign of divine harmony. But Daniel's words echoed in her mind again and again. "She's too beautiful." She whispered those words to herself. They felt strange, wrong, but also somehow true. When she saw Daniel walking down the garden path toward her, she didn't turn away. His footsteps were soft, steady, human. He stopped a few paces behind her. "I heard you met with my mother," she said quietly. "I did," Daniel replied. "She asked me questions." Liara looked at him through the reflection. "And what did you tell her?" Daniel hesitated, then said gently, "The truth." Her voice lowered. "That I am too beautiful?" He sighed. "Yes." She turned toward him, her silver eyes searching his face. "Why do you say that, Daniel? Among my kind, beauty is perfection. It is the greatest honor. But you speak of it as if it is a burden." Daniel smiled faintly, his expression soft. "Because beauty can be dangerous, Liara. It blinds people. It hides what's real. Sometimes when something is too perfect, people stop looking deeper. They forget the heart." Liara looked down at her hands. Flawless, glowing, smooth like glass. "You speak of hearts," she murmured. "But our kind has no such thing. Our bodies are light and energy. Our minds are united in logic. We do not have what you call emotion." Daniel stepped closer, his voice quiet but steady. "Maybe that's what makes you so different. But that doesn't mean you can't feel. You already do, even if you don't recognize it." Liara frowned softly. "Feel what?" "Curiosity, confusion, even sadness," Daniel said. "When you question what beauty means, when you look at your reflection and wonder why it doesn't make you happy, that's emotion." Her eyes widened slightly. Then I am broken? He shook his head. No, you're becoming alive. They walked through the gardens together, the air filled with the soft hum of glowing trees. Liara stopped near a cluster of flowers, transparent petals that shimmered like crystal. In our culture, she said, these flowers are symbols of purity. They bloom in perfect shapes and never fade. They are eternal. Daniel reached down and touched one gently. On Earth, flowers fade in days, but that's what makes them beautiful to us. They don't last forever, so we treasure them more. Liara stared at him, her expression thoughtful. That isn't sad. It's also what makes life meaningful, he said softly. Every moment matters because it ends. Every smile, every sunrise. We value them because they're temporary. Liara looked at the flower again. Your people find beauty in things that die. My people find beauty in things that never change. Which one is right? Daniel smiled. Maybe both. But I think there's something special about imperfection. It reminds us that we're alive. She studied his face, his eyes, his scars, his simple human skin. You are not perfect, she said quietly. He laughed lightly. No, I'm definitely not. And yet, she continued, there is something peaceful about you, something warm. You are not made of light, but when I look at you, I feel brightness. Daniel looked at her carefully. That's the beauty of being human. We don't have to be perfect to shine. Days passed. Liara began to notice things she had never seen before. The uneven pattern of the stars, the soft noise of wind through the gardens, the sound of her own breath. She began to dream, something Aurelians had not done in centuries. Her dreams were filled with colors, voices, and feelings she couldn't describe. When she awoke, her chest felt heavy but also strangely full. Daniel continued to meet her each day. He taught her human art, music, and poetry. Liara listened to songs from Earth, soft melodies about love, loss, and hope. The emotions within those sounds stirred something deep in her. One day she asked him, why do humans create songs that make them cry? Because sometimes sadness reminds us that we care, Daniel said. Tears are proof of love. Tears? She repeated. We do not have such things. He smiled gently. Maybe one day you will. Liara looked away, uncertain. My mother will not allow this. She fears what I am becoming. She thinks emotions will destroy me. Daniel shook his head. No, Liara, they won't destroy you. They'll free you. That evening, Liara sat alone in her chamber. The walls around her glowed softly with living light. Her reflection shimmered across every surface. Perfect, beautiful, and empty. She remembered Daniel's words. Sometimes perfection hides what's real. She whispered to her reflection. What am I then? Am I real? For the first time, she felt a tremor inside her, a strange pressure behind her glowing eyes. A small drop of light fell from her face, landing on the silver floor. It sparkled like a diamond. She touched it, confused. What is this? She whispered. A voice came from the doorway. It's a tear. Daniel stood there watching her. His expression was soft but proud. It means you're feeling. Liara stared at him in awe. It hurts, he nodded. It does, but it's also beautiful. She looked down at the small tear glowing faintly on the floor. So this is what it means to be alive? Yes, Daniel said. To feel joy and pain together. That's what life truly is. Later that night, Queen Saralith entered her daughter's chamber silently. She saw Liara sitting by the window, gazing at the stars. My child, the queen said calmly, the court whispers that you are changing. You show emotion. You cry, you dream. Do you deny it? Liara didn't turn around. I cannot deny what I feel, mother. The queen's voice grew sharp. Then you risk losing harmony. You risk losing what makes us Aurelian. Liara stood slowly and faced her mother. Her eyes glowed, but there was something human in their depth now. And what if I no longer wish to be perfect? What if I want to be alive instead? The queen stared at her silent. For the first time, her voice trembled faintly. This is the humans doing. Liara didn't answer. She only looked out the window again. Maybe it is. But isn't that what the universe wanted us to learn? That life is more than order, it's feeling? Saralith turned away, her silver gown shimmering. You speak with dangerous words, my daughter. When she left, the room was quiet again. Liara looked out at the stars and whispered, dangerous or true? Far below, Daniel walked alone through the glowing city streets. His heart was heavy but hopeful. He knew what was coming and the Queen would act soon. But even if he was banished, he had no regrets, because in one perfect cold world, he had awakened something real, a single tear from a heart that never knew how to cry. And that single tear, glowing brighter than any star above, proved what humans had always believed. Even in a universe of perfection, only imperfection can make something truly beautiful. The halls of the Aurelia Palace were alive with whispers. Courtiers moved like shadows, their glowing eyes shifting anxiously. The story of the human ambassador and Princess Liara had spread beyond gardens and chambers. Some Aurelians called it curiosity. Others called it danger. But all agreed that something unprecedented was unfolding. Liara was changing. She was no longer the calm, flawless princess who followed orders without question. She now questioned, felt, and wondered, all because of one human. Queen Saralith watched from her throne in the Grand Hall, her expression unreadable. But inside, a storm brewed. Liara's behavior is unacceptable, she said to her advisor, a tall being with crystalline wings. Emotion is chaos. Chaos cannot rule here. If she continues, she will unravel herself and us, the advisor bowed. Your Majesty, perhaps the human should be removed from court. Distance will restore balance. Saralith's eyes glowed faintly. Distance alone will not change her. The human has awakened something within her that cannot be ignored. I must speak to him directly. That evening, Daniel received a summons. The message bore the royal seal in a single line. You will meet the Queen in her private chambers, alone. He walked through the glowing corridors of the palace, the soft hum of light-filled walls echoing his steps. He knew the conversation would test him, but he did not fear. Humans had always faced impossible odds, and somehow they endured. When he arrived, Queen Saralith was waiting, her silver glow brighter than ever. She motioned for him to sit, though Daniel remained standing. Human, she began, her voice calm but sharp. You have corrupted my daughter. She laughs, she questions, she cries. She no longer obeys. Do you understand the gravity of what you have done? Daniel looked her in the eyes. Your Majesty, I have done nothing to force her. She chose to feel. She chose to learn. All I did was show her what emotion can be. Emotion? The Queen repeated as if tasting the word for the first time. You call this feeling? This imperfection? My daughter's mind is delicate. She is meant to uphold our people. And yet you have awakened a storm within her. Daniel's voice was steady. I believe the storm was always there. She just didn't know it yet. You cannot control what she truly feels. Only she can choose that. The Queen studied him, her glow flickering like a candle in the wind. Your kind is strange. You claim weakness is strength and chaos is life. Yet your words have meaning, even for one such as me. Daniel inclined his head. Humans do not see perfection as the ultimate prize. We see truth in imperfection, courage in choice, and power in hearts that dare to care. That night, Daniel returned to the Crystal Gardens. Liara was waiting, her eyes reflecting both the light of the twin moons and the turmoil within her. My mother, she whispered, she is angry. She says I am being corrupted. She wants to separate us. Daniel took a careful step closer. She does not understand. Your heart is not a threat, it is a gift, and she will not take it from you unless you allow it. Liara looked down. But if she forbids it, what can I do? Daniel smiled softly. Then you must stand. You must show her that feeling is not weakness. It is life. Her silver eyes glimmered with something he had never seen before. Determination. You are right. I will not hide who I am. I will not let fear rule me. The next day, the Queen summoned both Daniel and Liara to the Grand Hall. The chamber was vast, stretching to the horizon with crystalline arches. Light bounced in patterns across the floor, reflecting the perfection of Aurelian design. Liara walked beside Daniel, her steps firm. For the first time, the courtiers murmured not in fear but in awe. This was not the timid princess they had known. Saralith rose from her throne. Liara, she said, her voice both regal and cautious. You have allowed a human to influence you. You question your duty, your purpose, and even your perfection. Do you deny this? Liara stood tall. No, Mother. I do not deny it. A hush fell over the hall. Daniel watched carefully, his heart racing, but he stayed silent. You risk the harmony of our people, Saralith continued. If you continue on this path, you will bring chaos to all of Aurelia Prime. I will take that risk. Liara replied calmly. Because I want to live. I want to feel what humans feel. I want to understand my own heart. The Queen's glowing eyes narrowed. Do you know what you are saying? You defy me, the Queen, your mother. You defy the very essence of our kind. Yes, Liara said. Her voice was steady. And I also choose to follow truth. I choose to follow what I feel. A ripple of surprise moved through the court. The advisor whispered to the Queen, She speaks with courage and conviction. This is unprecedented. Saralith looked at Daniel, then at her daughter. The weight of centuries of tradition pressed upon her. But in that moment she saw something she could not deny. Liara's courage was real. Her choice was her own. The Queen took a deep breath. Human, she said finally. You are the cause of this upheaval. Yet you speak with honesty, with respect, and with reason. You are unlike any being I have encountered. Why do you not claim her? Why do you not love her as humans claim love? Daniel met her gaze. Because, Your Majesty. She is too beautiful, the court gasped. Liara's silver eyes widened, and even the Queen paused. Daniel continued. Not because she's perfect on the outside, but because her heart, her mind, and her spirit are so pure and strong they would outshine me. I cannot be enough to love her properly. She deserves someone who can see her fully. Every part, every flaw, every light and shadow. I fear that I would fail her simply because she is too much. Too extraordinary. Liara felt tears welling in her eyes, but they were different this time. Not fear, not confusion, but understanding. She stepped closer to Daniel, her hand brushing his arm. Then that is why you are different, she said softly. You do not claim me for my light. You honor me for who I am. That is what humans call love. The Queen's expression softened, though her silver glow remained sharp. You speak in ways that defy my understanding. And yet, perhaps this is not chaos. Perhaps it is growth. She turned to her advisors. Let it be known, the princess will explore her heart. The human ambassador will remain, but you will all watch closely. This is unprecedented. We cannot yet understand what will come. The court bowed in obedience. The whispering began again, but this time there was respect, not fear. That evening, Daniel and Liara returned to the Crystal Gardens. They walked in silence, letting the glow of the moons wash over them. Liara stopped near the lake and looked at her reflection. For the first time, she did not see only perfection. She saw curiosity, courage, and emotion, a heart that could break and yet continue to shine. I feel alive, she whispered. Daniel nodded. And that is the beauty of imperfection. It makes life real. It makes love real, she smiled faintly. Then you were right. Beauty is not just what the eye sees. It is what the heart feels. Daniel looked at her, his chest tight with admiration. Exactly. And that is why I cannot claim to love you fully. I see your heart, but it shines so brightly that I cannot match it, yet I will always honor it. Liara reached out and for the first time allowed herself to take his hand. Then we can walk together, she said. Even if it is just as friends, as students of life. Daniel squeezed her hand gently. I would follow you anywhere, Liara, even to the edge of the stars. High above the palace, Queen Saralith watched from her balcony. She had seen her daughter choose life and feeling over cold perfection. She had seen the human ambassador speak words that shook centuries of tradition, and though her silver eyes reflected concern, there was also a faint smile. Perhaps, she thought, there was wisdom in this chaos after all. Perhaps the universe was teaching even the oldest of civilizations something new, that emotion was not weakness, but strength. In the crystal gardens below, Liara's hand rested in Daniel's. Their footsteps echoed softly against the shimmering paths. Somewhere in that perfect, glowing world, a new truth had taken root. Life was more than light. It was feeling. Love was more than admiration. It was courage, and humanity, in its quiet, imperfect way, had changed everything. The twin suns of Aurelia Prime rose slowly over the crystal city, casting long streaks of gold and silver across the glowing towers. The palace, usually filled with perfect harmony, felt different now. There was an energy in the air, subtle but undeniable. Life had changed, even in a civilization that measured centuries in light. Captain Daniel Reed stood at the edge of the landing platform, looking out at the horizon. Today he would depart. His mission as Earth's first ambassador was complete. Humanity had earned recognition among the Galactic Council, not through strength or conquest, but through the quality that had always made them unique, their hearts. Behind him, the palace glittered like a jewel. But Daniel's thoughts were not on the shining towers or the countless glowing Aurelian courtiers. They were on Liara, the princess who had transformed in ways no one could have predicted. Liara appeared quietly at his side, her silver glow faint but steady. She had changed over the weeks, no longer the flawless, untouchable figure of the court. She now carried warmth in her eyes, uncertainty in her expression, and a courage that rivaled any warrior. "You're leaving," she said softly, though she had known this moment would come. "I am," Daniel replied. "Earth awaits, and I must continue my work for our people." She studied him for a long moment. "And yet, you will leave a part of yourself here." Daniel smiled faintly. "And you will carry a part of me as well. Liara, you have learned to feel. That is a gift that no one can take from you." Her eyes shimmered, reflecting both light and emotion. "Do you think I will forget you?" He shook his head. "Never. Humans remember the moments that touch their hearts. You will remember, too, the way life can feel, even in a world that seems perfect." Earlier that morning, Queen Saralith had summoned Liara privately. The throne room was quiet, its walls glowing softly with living light. "My daughter," the queen began, her voice calm but tinged with concern. "You have learned something that no Aurelian has felt in centuries. Emotion is dangerous. It can cloud judgment, disrupt harmony, and weaken the mind." Liara met her mother's gaze steadily. "And yet, Mother, I feel alive. I feel my heart and mind working together, not in harmony alone, but in truth. I have learned to care, to question, and to love in my own way. That is what humans taught me." The queen's expression softened slightly. She studied her daughter, seeing not perfection but depth. "I do not fully understand," she admitted. "But perhaps there is merit in what you have learned. Humans, they are not strong in the way we are strong, but they are strong in ways we do not measure. Their hearts carry power we rarely see." Liara stepped closer. "It is why Daniel does not claim me, Mother. He sees me truly and he knows my worth, but he also knows he cannot match it. That is human humility." The queen remained silent, a subtle glow reflecting in her eyes. For the first time she realized something profound. Perhaps emotion was not a weakness, but a strength even an ancient empire could learn from. Daniel returned to the landing platform, carrying only a small satchel with essential items. Around him, the human delegation prepared for departure. The Aurelians observed quietly, their expressions a mixture of awe and confusion. Liara joined him, her hand brushing his briefly. "I wish you could stay," she whispered. Daniel squeezed her hand gently. "I wish I could too, but my place is among my people. I will continue to fight for humanity, to show the galaxy the value of our hearts, and you will carry what we shared here. That is enough for now." A small tear glimmered on her cheek, reflecting the rising suns. Daniel noticed it, but he did not touch it. Some moments, he thought, are sacred in themselves. As the human delegation boarded the shuttle, Liara watched from the platform. Daniel turned once, offering a small, soft smile. It was a smile that spoke of friendship, trust, and unspoken understanding. Then he lifted off, the shuttle rising against the glowing skies. The city shrank below him, the shining towers catching the light in a dazzling array. But even as he left, Daniel felt something extraordinary, the quiet knowledge that he had changed this world, not with power, but with something far more human. During the journey back to Earth, Daniel reflected on everything that had happened. Humanity had gained a place among the stars, but the true achievement had been far more personal. He had helped a being of pure perfection discover imperfection, to feel, to live, and to grow. Liara's transformation was proof. Even in a world of absolute beauty and flawless design, the human spirit could awaken emotion, courage, and truth. He remembered the queen's question clearly. "Why don't you love my daughter?" And he remembered his answer, soft but resolute. "She's too beautiful, not beautiful in the way the Aurelians saw beauty, but beautiful in a way that made him humble, in a way that reminded him that some light is so bright it cannot be contained." Back on Aurelia Prime, Liara stood in the gardens gazing at the horizon. The moons reflected in the water, their soft light shimmering against the petals of glowing flowers. She had learned to cry, to question, and to feel. She had discovered herself through the lessons of a human heart. She whispered softly to the night, "Thank you, Daniel, for showing me what life truly is, for showing me love." Somewhere far above the stars, Daniel looked back at Aurelia Prime. He could not see Liara, but he felt her presence, a connection beyond distance, beyond time. And he smiled quietly. Weeks passed. The Aurelians began to notice changes across the Empire. There were small things at first: courtiers laughing softly, children playing with newfound curiosity, philosophers asking questions that had never been asked. Liara's courage had sparked something in the hearts of a people who had long lived only in perfection. Even the Queen observed quietly. She had learned a lesson that few would admit aloud. The human heart was powerful in ways that logic alone could never measure. Liara continued to explore her own feelings. She wrote notes, painted images, and began to dream freely. Every choice she made carried both risk and meaning. She had learned to live in the light and in the shadows, and she knew that the gift of emotion was the greatest gift of all. Meanwhile, Daniel returned to Earth, his shuttle gliding through familiar skies. The blue of his home planet felt warmer, softer, and more alive than ever. He walked among his people, teaching, sharing, and showing the galaxy what it meant to be human. And though he would never see Liara again, he carried her light in his heart. A single truth remained clear: humanity changes the universe not through power, but through courage, emotion, and the strength of its hearts. Somewhere in the vastness of space, a princess of light smiled, knowing that a human had touched her life, and that she, in turn, would carry that lesson for all her days. And that, Daniel thought, was more than enough. The stars above Aurelia Prime shone brighter than ever. Not because of perfection, not because of harmony, but because one small, imperfect human had shown a perfect world the beauty of being alive. And in that glow, the universe seemed just a little warmer, just a little more human.